Hey guys, and welcome to NINTENDUARY, a month where we review a different Nintendo 64 game every day for the entire month. Today we're actually gonna take a look at two games that were produced during the peak of pro wrestling in the late 90s and early 2000s. Mostly we will look at WWF No Mercy, but also take a brief look at WCW Nwo Revenge. Let's not waste any more time and get right into it. WWF No Mercy released at an interesting time for the WWF, which is now called WWE. The Monday Night Wars were slowly fading out, and it would only be a couple months more till they bought out their rivaling company WCW. Nonetheless, the Attitude Era was still going at full force, and the biggest stars were The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin and Triple H. With Triple H and The Rock feuding for most of the year 2000, since Stone Cold was out with a real injury after being kayfabe hit by a car. Newcomers like Kurt Angle or Chris Jericho were popping up left and right, and the tag team division was also going strong, with Edge and Christian, the Hardy Boys and the Dudley Boys having a streak of insane ladder matches. And WWF No Mercy perfectly captures all the different stuff that was going on in the company at the time in game form. You got a roster of over 60 different wrestlers, a ton of different match types, arenas, movesets, weapons and even backstage areas within the game. Also, you had a different story mode for each championship belt, which for example gave you the chance to play through some feuds from the year 2000, like Triple H vs Mankind for the WWF Championship. And after winning, you could even continue playing the story as champion. As a kid, I always thought there was an insane amount of content in this game, and it's still pretty impressive to see nowadays. Controls wise, this game was like any other wrestling game developed by AKI Corporation at the time. I remember playing WrestleMania 2000 or WCW Nwo Revenge on the N64 too, which came out a few years prior, and the controls were exactly the same. All these games were simple to learn, which made it much easier for a lot of people to get into wrestling games like this. I even struggled with learning the controls a couple years ago when getting into the 2K series of wrestling games for the first time. Fun fact, the company who made all these great wrestling games in the late 90s and early 2000s is still around. They even just released a game last year for the 3DS. New Style Boutique 3, Styling Star. Well, I guess maybe fun fact was a bit of an overstatement. The graphics are overall a big plus of this game. The body and facial expressions of each wrestler look authentic. On close-up, some of the faces look a little blocky, but you can still make out who it's supposed to be. The detail and fluid motion in the animation was off the charts for an N64 wrestling game in my opinion. For example, you could hit a wrestler's knee a few times and then watch them limp around on it for the rest of the match. Also, there was lots and lots of blood in the game, which was something you would see on TV quite regularly. No Mercy had a good mix of catchy wrestler themes and relatively realistic sound effects. Wrestlers always have a unique entrance theme so that you immediately know who's coming out to the arena, and since this is an officially licensed game, you got all the wrestlers' theme songs right there on your N64. But one thing that always bugged me though is the entrance songs only play for a brief time, which I think is due to hardware limitations. The background music used through the selection screens and during the actual wrestling is pretty generic and gets boring after a while. Good thing the music isn't what this game is about, and the great sound effects are probably more important. WCW Nwo Revenge came out 2 years prior to this game with less features, but was a little bit more action focused. And as I already mentioned, since they are made by the same company, this game really feels like a predecessor to No Mercy. The amount of playable characters is about the same, but almost every wrestler from the company at this time is in the game, which wrestling games nowadays don't even have. The graphics aren't as crisp here, and many of the wrestlers look a little off. Just look at Roddy Piper's in-game face and compare it to his real appearance. Who's this person? Also, what is this intro? This is supposed to be wrestling, right? The game lets you change the names of wrestlers, so as a kid I changed the names to the real names of the wrestlers because I thought I was being all smart and stuff. Since there isn't a lot to do in the actual ring compared to No Mercy, the matches are much faster paced. Nonetheless, this used to be the top selling third-party Nintendo game for a while. What makes this fact even more insane is looking at WWE 2K18 on the Switch and how crappy it is. This game came out at the verge of the Monday Night Wars slowly being in favor for the WWF, so this might have been the last good thing WCW ever produced. So what exactly made these games so great? Well, first of all, the late 90s is widely considered the best era in wrestling ever. And second of all, this game could be picked up by anyone from 10 years old to 30 years old. It still holds up greatly in 2018, and if you have never played a wrestling game, maybe consider picking this one up. Well, that's it for today's video. Make sure to come back tomorrow for more NINTENDUARY videos. And also check out the previous episodes we've already done. There's a backlog of over 20 videos. Also, we just hit 8,000 subscribers, so thank you guys a lot. And if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Until then, see you guys next time.